So as I have journeyed along through this homeschool journey and I have joined some homeschool groups, I just wanted to put this video out there for those moms that are homeschooling that may be considering joining a homeschool co-op, community, whatever you want to call it. So I made a list of some pros and cons, and I just wanted to share them with you. And I have been in 3 homeschool groups so far in our journey. And one, after the first year, we left it. And then the present one we are in, one we have been in for 2 years and the other one for 1 year. So let's talk about the pros and cons. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a pro, but then I'm going to give you the con on the flip side of that pro that might come along with joining a homeschool group. So pro number 1 is you can really find some great communities out there. They are there for you to support you on this homeschool journey. And you also can find the not so great ones. Meaning sometimes, even as a Christian mom, I feel like sometimes they can be overly, I hate to say overly Christian. Y'all don't be leaving me no comments. But I feel like sometimes you're missing the child. And yes, I want my children to be Christian. Yes, I want my children to be saved. Yes, I want my children to follow God. But do I want to shove it down their throats? No. Why? Because if you guys did not know on this channel, or I probably never mentioned it, I'm a pastor's kid. I have been in church all my life. And I did not like the fact that it was always shoved down my throat. So, yeah, kind of led me to make some bad decisions. So, anyway, not to get too deep into that, but so on one side, it is great. But on the other side, if your children don't fit in, or us as Christians, we chose to do a non-Christian group, the influences or that your children may have to experience, because there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes it might be too much. So we did choose to leave the group, but we also chose to leave that group because it was expensive. It was, for me, thinking the average homeschool mom would put out $300 to $400 per class per student for a year. For our household, it's a lot of money. Some of you out there might have that. I know some people that have nannies. Hey, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? You got it. Do your thing. For us, it was not a fit. Okay. So the next pro is you definitely get the socialization, because there will be at least 1 or 2 kids that your kids are like, oh, can they come over? Oh, can we have a play date? These are beautiful things that you can get from a homeschool group. The thing about having a lot of outside socialization, which is, yes, we want our kids to be able to socialize, but socializing doesn't only happen in a classroom. And if I have to say that 50 times, I will, because it's something that people love asking. What do you do for their socialization? We talk to people. I'm sorry. But sometimes it does get on my nerves that people do that. Like, it really does. So my children are socialized, okay? They talk to people. They are very entertaining. So the flip side of that, I feel like, though, when you are doing a lot of outside things and still having to get those things done in your home, it takes away the time. So yes, it's okay to commit for making sure your kids getting their, cup full with their friends and all of that stuff. But the flip side of that is that it does take away from the time that you have to actually sit and do your academics. And that is something that you really need to consider when your kids are in higher grades, which is why I know sometime in the community of homeschool, a lot of people send their kids back to high school. But it is doable. Mine didn't want to go back. My oldest is applying to go to a VOTEC for culinary, so we will see where that leads, because he might be doing half day and then half day. But the reality still with that is that you have to average out how much time you really have to do all the extra things, okay? Yeah. So the third pro is when you're doing an academic homeschool co-op. When you're doing fine arts, you don't really have anything to do outside of that, unless it's like you have to do more drawing for your art or practice your instrument and things like that. But when it comes to subjects, if you are leaning on somebody else to teach your child that subject, it is a pro, because it can get hard when you have kids that are not in the same age aspect, or for instance, they start high school and it's like, well, he's doing this and he's doing this. So anytime you can line up or do things together, it is going to make it so much better. The con of being able to have other people teach your kids is traveling, the time. How long is it taking me to get there and get back home? That's taken away from your day. Also cost. On top of that, how much you paying for this course? Is the course that you're paying for, is it worth the money that you're paying for it? And then also gas, because the reality is that's a part of your budget too, because you're paying gas to go back and forth to do these activities. So it is wonderful and beautiful to have outside socialization, academic coverage, but you do have to make sure that how much of the time you are giving out of your week and what that looks like. There might be some Saturday time where we have to do some work. So it just depends on your child commitment and being very realistic with them. Like, this is what this looks like, especially when you hit high school, because it's like, this is state requirements. And that's how I started showing my kids, like, this is your requirement in order for me to give you a diploma. I'm not just handing out a piece of paper because you're my child in home and you think that this is a free ride. It's not a free ride. Okay. So, I think one of the biggest pros of this going into it, when I first started homeschooling, oh my gosh, I'm saying 4 years ago, guys. I started homeschooling 4 years. Wow. Anyway, when I first started homeschooling, the first 2 years, like, I was mostly doing this by myself. So we were home. I didn't really have any support outside of the home or whatever. And of course, we have our YouTube channels, because if any of you remember, Erica from My Busy Bees is no longer Erica from My Busy Bees. She's melanated and educated now. But she had wonderful videos and things on there that I used to follow. And of course, I'm sure you guys know Tori from the Ogilvy's Ohana, and wonderful channels that encouraged me along my journey when I was homeschooling. And the biggest pro for me now that we are in homeschool groups, especially one of my homeschool groups, is like, I'm not trying to be overly involved. That way it takes away from my home, because my home is priority. But the pro is mom support. It is a beautiful thing when you can go to these co-ops. RCC co-op has a mom refilling every month where the moms get together and they talk. Sometimes they're in the morning, sometimes they're at night, and it's like you just sit around and chat and talk about homeschool or just have fun and laugh. And I think that's something beautiful, because I have grown some friendships out of that, which otherwise I would not have had. And I still will feel kind of like alone into myself in this journey. And besides that, I do have friends outside of here, like at church and stuff, but I feel like you have time to really build the friendships and turn them into something more than just like, oh, hey, how you doing type friendships. And yeah. The flip side, though, of the mom support and being in the communities, which is a con for me, is feeling pressured to do it their way. Wow. Let me say that again, guys. Feeling pressure to do it their way. My experience with starting in the CC community was, oh yeah, we're gonna do rigorous work, and we're gonna keep up, and we have to, and this is just the way it is. I had to really quiet myself and say, no, what we're doing at home is enough. As long as you're putting in the required amount of work to do a credit or finishing the textbook, that's enough. We don't have to master Latin, and we don't have to like memorize all the songs, because even like people would ask me like, oh, is your son gonna go for memory master? And I'm like, honestly, I asked him and he said no. I'm respecting what my child wants. I'm not like, you're gonna do this because everybody else is doing it. Like, no, we're not gonna do that. And honestly, he has time for all of the I did this and I did that in high school when he starts to explore, or 8th grade. Like, so I enjoy not putting so much on my younger kids. And even as we continue in the community, I'm not going to be picking a heavy weight load as like doing the full, 7 subjects. Does that mean we're not doing 7 at a complete 7? No, it doesn't mean that. We might have 7 subjects. When you get in older grades, they kind of expect you to carry that load. So, but some of those include electives. So it's like, you just gotta weigh it. You can't let other people's thoughts of what their child is doing, and stay off of Instagram, because the beauty that you see on Instagram is just beauty, and they make it look that way. And I kind of have this like, oh, I shouldn't bring real homeschool life to my channel. But as we go along, guys, and of course it won't get too personal because I won't put all of my kids' business out in the street, but this is real life. And yeah, you got to tell the truth, or otherwise you can't make it look so glamorous. Even when people ask me like, oh, you homeschool, that's beautiful, how do you do that? I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's something that I love to do. Is it hard work? It is hard work at certain times, yes. Is it rewarding? It's absolutely rewarding. Yeah, but you have to want to do it. It has to be something you feel like, I'm going to dedicate my time to this and do it. The other pros about homeschool groups, let's move on, is mom time. Because at one of our groups, because my kids are so much older and I don't have to chase them down to get them to go to class, like I printed out their schedule. They have their ID on the front and their schedule on the back, and they have watches and cell phones, so they know you need to be in class at 12:30. So guess what? When I go here, I'm usually either chatting with 3 of my 5 homeschool moms that I talk to. The rest of the time I am by myself. I can go outside, I can read, I can work. It's so nice. So for me, that group also has become a positive, but it's also becoming one of those things this year that we're going to move it to the afternoon, so it does not take up our morning time, our complete whole day. The con of that was the diversity. There are other African-American kids there, but like I said, we are probably about 5% of the 100%. And that's a big thing for me in New Jersey, where a lot of the homeschool groups are like mostly white. And sometimes I try to tread lightly, because I do not want to make comments, but sometimes I will not let things go. And sometimes I do have to say stuff, because the reality is that even in the history in CC, which one of our memory things were kind of changed to add on York and Sacagawea, because the reality is, as we know, with a lot of history, it's completely from the perspective of our counterparts, which, yeah. So anyway, that is something that I try to be verbal about, and I try not to let it, you know, affect too much, because I'm teaching my kids in my home about every culture, not just one culture. And I feel like that's much needed everywhere else. There is one more con that I want to talk about. It doesn't really have a pro. And because it's time commitment. It's a con because you know that you're committing all this time to this place. It's taking out of your time at home that you have to teach to your children. So, and even in that time commitment as a mom that has other stuff to do, when we go to group, I know that day, like, I'm not doing this, that, and the other. I know that day that my dinner has to be simple. I know that day, like, I'm not sitting down to edit videos. So there's, you know, some things that is good about it. It doesn't free up your time. So that makes the time commitment to me a con, because it's just, yeah, committing time where you might have to consider saying, oh, we have to have class on Saturday for like an hour. So I have thought about all these things, the pros and cons, and I feel like when my kids start making friendships that you want them to keep years to come, the cons, you kind of just overlook some of them. The one con that I'm really, I don't know, is the diversity, but we deal with it. Sometimes people don't know. I had to address some things this year. My little one of his friends was calling him Monkey Boy, and I was like, hey, where's your mom? I had to have a conversation so she could have a conversation and not call my child a monkey. And then I had to do the hair thing. Please don't touch my child's hair. Like, I know it's different from yours, but we don't appreciate people touching our hair. So these are conversations that I have had to have, and it's one of those things in the beginning where I kind of brushed it off, and then as the year went on, I was like, okay, we're going to nip this in the butt, because if we're going to be around here like every other child, you're going to have to know how to act or how to treat my child, and even myself. Please don't do that. Anyway, guys, I'm just running on chatting, but those are my pros and cons. If you are somebody who has been in a homeschool group and you have your own pros and cons, please list them in the comments below and let's chat. Guys, I will see you in my next video, and don't forget to do what serves your home, and I will see you. Bye.